The night was quiet on the human colony world. The twin moons hung in the sky like pale eyes watching over the endless farmlands. Fields stretched for miles, filled with tall, glowing grain that swayed softly in the wind. Most settlers were asleep, their homes locked tight. But one man, a farmer named Daniel, was still awake. He often stayed late in his barn, repairing old tools and watching the stars through the cracks in the wooden roof. That night, Daniel felt uneasy. The animals were restless. The barn's horses stomped their hooves and the cows shifted in their pens. He stood up, lantern in hand, and listened carefully. Something was moving among the shadows. He heard the faint creak of the storage door. Someone was inside, moving. Slowly, Daniel stepped closer. His boots made no sound on the hay-covered floor. He raised the lantern high, and its golden light cut through the darkness. That's when he saw her. A small figure crouched near the sacks of grain, thin hands trembling as they tore open a bag. Her face snapped up at the light. It was not a settler girl. Her skin was faintly silver with faint glowing lines running across her cheeks. Her eyes were large, luminous, and desperate. An alien, Daniel thought. A thief. She froze in fear, clutching a handful of stolen grain. For a moment, neither moved. Daniel's grip tightened on the lantern handle. He was ready to shout, ready to drag her outside. But then he noticed her condition. She was thin, her clothes ragged. Her stomach growled loudly in the silence. She looked less like a criminal and more like a starving child. The girl suddenly stood, but instead of running, she raised her hands. Her voice shook, but her words were steady. "Don't hurt me, human. I will work your fields by day, and I will warm you by night. Just don't throw me out." Daniel blinked. Stunned, the words hung in the air like a sharp blade. He had expected her to beg for mercy, but not this. Not such a strange, desperate bargain. She stood there, eyes shining, her body trembling from hunger and fear. "What did you say?" Daniel asked, his voice low. He stepped closer and the girl backed away until her shoulders pressed against the wooden wall. "I cannot go back," she whispered. "I have nothing. My people have cast me out. The other humans, they would kill me if they found me. But I can be useful, I can work your fields, I can give you loyalty, I can stay close to you at night, just don't drive me away." Her voice cracked as she spoke. The lantern light revealed her scars, thin marks across her arms and collar. Daniel's anger began to fade, replaced by curiosity and something he didn't want to admit. Pity. He lowered the lantern a little. "Why my farm?" he asked. "Why risk stealing here?" The girl's eyes flicked toward the sacks of grain. "Because I was hungry," she whispered. "And because you are alone. No guards, no family. I thought maybe you would not kill me right away." Her honesty made Daniel pause. She wasn't just clever, she was desperate beyond measure. He studied her, the dirt on her hands, the thinness of her arms. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. "You stole from me," Daniel finally said. "That makes you a thief, and thieves pay a price." The girl straightened as if ready to accept punishment, but instead of begging, she said again with more strength this time, "Then let me pay it with my life. Let me serve you. I will dig the earth by day. I will stay by your side at night. This is all I have left to give." The words unsettled Daniel. He had seen many things in his years on this colony. Raids, famine, storms. But never had he faced something like this. An alien girl offering herself in exchange for survival. Silence filled the barn. The lantern flickered as the wind seeped through the cracks. Daniel's mind raced. If he kept her, his neighbors would hate him. If he let her go, she might die in the fields. If he turned her in, she would be executed. She lowered her eyes, her voice almost a whisper now. "If you refuse me, I will not fight, but please, let me eat this one handful before I go." Daniel stared at her, at the trembling hand clutching the stolen grain, at the fragile figure that looked ready to collapse. His heart pounded. His farmer's logic told him to push her out. But something, deeper, something human, kept his hand still. For the first time in many years, Daniel did not know what to do, and that uncertainty, That impossible choice wrapped the night in heavy suspense. Daniel stood in silence, the lantern still burning in his hand. The alien girl's strange offer echoed in his mind. Work his fields by day, warm him by night. It was such a strange mix of words, both innocent and heavy with meaning. He could not tell if she understood what she had said, or if she was only repeating something she had learned. The girl did not move. Her silver-lined eyes stayed fixed on him. She was waiting for his decision. Her breath was shallow, her thin frame pressed against the barn wall like a trapped bird. Daniel cleared his throat. "You think I'll just accept this bargain? You steal my grain, then tell me you'll serve me? Why should I trust you?" Her voice shook but remained steady enough to carry her desperation. "Because I have no one else. Because I will die without shelter. If you cast me out, the cold or the men in the village will finish me. At least here, I can work, I can give you loyalty." Her words touched something inside him. He had lived alone for years on this colony. His neighbors kept their distance. He was the quiet man who worked his fields, who never remarried after losing his wife to sickness. He had no children, no company except the land and his animals. He studied her carefully. The girl was young, but not a child. She looked scarred by hardship. Her ragged clothes clung to her thin frame. Her stomach growled again, loud in the silence. Daniel sighed, setting the lantern on a wooden beam. "What's your name?" he asked. For a moment she hesitated as if afraid to reveal it, then she whispered, "Salira." "Salira," Daniel repeated, testing the sound. "You want to stay here? Then you'll work for your meals. No stealing, no lying. You'll pull your weight on this farm." Salira's glowing eyes widened. She almost collapsed to her knees. "You mean you'll let me stay?" Daniel raised a hand to stop her from rushing forward. "Don't mistake me, I haven't decided yet. I don't take in thieves. And if the neighbors find out I'm hiding you, they'll turn on me too." Fear returned to her face. Her shoulders shook. She whispered quickly, "Then hide me. I can stay out of sight. I can work at night if needed. Just don't hand me over. I swear I will not betray you." Daniel leaned back against a wooden post. His mind wrestled with reason and instinct. He could end this now, march her to the nearest patrol and wash his hands clean. Yet something about her eyes, glowing yet broken, kept him from moving. "Why? Those words?" Daniel asked finally. "Why say you'll warm me by night? Do you even know what you're offering?" Salira lowered her gaze. Shame colored her cheeks. Her voice softened. "Among my people, when one has nothing, they offer body and labor. It means complete loyalty. It means they belong to the one they ask. I don't know if your humans understand the same, but I had nothing else to give." Daniel's chest tightened. He realized she hadn't meant it in a cheap way. It was a plea for belonging, a desperate attempt to survive. For the first time, Daniel stepped closer without anger. He reached for the grain in her hand, gently prying it loose. Then he poured it back into the sack. "You won't steal anymore. If you stay, you'll eat because you earn it. Do you understand?" Salira nodded quickly. "Yes, I understand, I swear." Daniel lit another lantern and placed it near the barn door. The golden glow filled the space, showing the tired lines of his face. He looked older, worn by the years, but in that moment, he looked less alone. "You'll sleep in the corner for now," he said gruffly, pointing to a pile of straw. "Tomorrow I'll see if you can handle tools. If you're useless, you're gone. If you betray me, I'll throw you to the patrols. That's the bargain." Salira's lips trembled, but she gave a small nod. She lowered herself onto the straw, curling up like a wounded animal finally allowed to rest. For the first time in many nights, she felt a thin thread of safety. Daniel turned away, but he could still feel her eyes on him. Her presence disturbed the quiet order of his life. He knew the decision he made tonight could change everything. Still, as he watched her finally close her eyes, exhaustion overtaking her, he told himself it was only temporary. Only until he decided what to do next. Yet deep down, Daniel knew that something had already shifted. The farm that had once been silent now carried the faint sound of another breathing. And that sound, fragile and human-like, made the empty darkness feel less heavy. The bargain was made, but it was not simple. It carried danger, whispers of scandal, and a weight neither of them fully understood. Still in that quiet barn, under the watch of the twin moons, a fragile bond had begun. The morning sun rose slowly over the colony fields, bathing the land in golden light. Daniel woke early, as he always did, but this time, something felt different. The barn was no longer his alone. In the corner, curled on the straw, Celira stirred, awake, her glowing eyes blinking against the light. For a brief moment, Daniel thought the events of last night had been a dream. But then she sat up, her thin figure stretching, and reality hit him again. He had taken in an alien thief, and now she was part of his farm. Up, Daniel said gruffly, tossing her a worn shirt and trousers. If you're going to stay here, you need clothes that don't fall apart. Put these on and meet me outside. Celira clutched the clothes as if they were a treasure. She nodded without protest. Her movements were quick, eager, and Daniel could see how desperately she wanted to prove herself. Out in the fields, the morning air was cool. The soil smelled fresh. The crops swayed softly in the breeze. Daniel handed her a simple tool, a wooden hoe with a metal head. We'll start with the weeds. If you can't handle this, you're gone. Celira gripped the tool, her hands unsteady at first. She pressed the blade into the soil, struggling to pull up the thick weeds that wrapped around the grain. Her arms shook, but she didn't stop. Sweat formed on her forehead. Daniel watched in silence. At first he expected her to fail, to collapse from exhaustion. But she kept pushing. She fell to her knees, pulled weeds with her bare hands, and rose. Again her breaths came in gasps, but her glowing eyes stayed determined. By midday, Daniel finally said, "Enough." He handed her a flask of water. Celira drank eagerly, the liquid spilling down her chin. She coughed, laughed weakly, and wiped her mouth with her sleeve. "You work harder than I thought," Daniel admitted, though his tone stayed sharp. "But this is only the beginning. Farm life doesn't forgive weakness." Celira met his gaze, her chest still rising and falling with heavy breaths. "I am not weak, human. I may be small, I may be hungry, but I am not weak. I will not break." Her words surprised him. For the first time, Daniel felt a flicker of respect. As days passed, their strange partnership grew. Celira rose with the dawn and worked beside him. She learned to till the soil, to feed the animals, to carry buckets of water even when her arms trembled. She listened to every instruction, and though her body was frail, her spirit was fierce. At night, the barn no longer felt so empty. Celira curled up in her corner, and Daniel often found himself glancing toward her as he mended tools by lantern light. She didn't speak much, but her presence was there, steady and unyielding. One evening, as they worked side by side repairing a broken fence, Celira asked softly, "Why are you alone, Daniel? Where is your family?" Her question struck him harder than he expected. He gripped the wooden post tightly before answering. "They're gone. My wife died years ago. No children. Just me and this land." Celira lowered her eyes. "I lost. Mine too. My people betrayed me, left me with nothing." Her voice trembled, but she quickly steadied it. "That is why I cling to this bargain. It is the only thing I have left." Daniel didn't reply, but something in his chest tightened. He realized their loneliness was not so different, human or alien. Grief left the same hollow space. Still, trust did not come easily. Daniel watched her closely, testing her with harder tasks. Celira never complained. She carried loads twice her size. She stood in the rain planting seeds. She even faced down a stubborn bull that had broken free from its pen. Her determination impressed him, though he never said it aloud, but not everyone approved. Neighbors passing by began to notice the alien girl on his land. They whispered at the market, shot Daniel suspicious looks. A human farmer taking in an alien thief. Such a thing was unheard of. One evening, after a long day, Daniel found a crude message carved into his barn door. "She does not belong." Celira saw it too, her glowing eyes filled with fear. They will come for me, won't they? She whispered. Daniel clenched his fists. He didn't answer right away. He knew she was right. The colony was not kind to outsiders, especially not to aliens. Keep working, he said firmly. Let them talk. This is my land, not theirs. Salira's face softened. She gave a faint smile. Then I will keep my promise. I will work by day. I will stay by your side at night. They will not take this from me. Daniel turned away, pretending her words didn't affect him. But deep down, he felt something shifting again. What began as an act of pity was slowly becoming something else. An unspoken bond forged in sweat, hardship, and quiet trust. Their partnership was strange, fragile, and dangerous, but it was real. And as the twin moons rose once more over the fields, Daniel knew that his life was no longer just his own. The colony town was small, but rumors traveled faster than wind. By the time Daniel returned from the market with supplies, he felt the weight of eyes on him. Neighbors whispered in corners. Merchants turned their heads when he passed. And though no one spoke directly to him, Daniel knew why. They had seen. Salira had been careful. She worked the fields when most people were busy in town. She kept her head down, never wandering beyond the farm. But still, word had spread. An alien girl living under the roof of a human farmer was something no one could ignore. That night, Daniel sat at his table, arms folded, staring at the wooden surface. Salira sat nearby, mending a torn sleeve with clumsy fingers. She could feel his silence pressing against her. Finally, she whispered, "They know, don't they?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He lifted his cup, took a slow sip, and finally said, "They're talking. Some say I'm hiding a thief. Some say worse, that I've taken you as something else." Salira's hands froze on the fabric. Her cheeks flushed with a faint silver glow. She lowered her gaze. "Do you regret letting me stay?" Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know yet, but this won't be easy. People don't forgive what they don't understand." The next day, the whispers grew louder. A group of men leaned against a fence near Daniel's farm, their eyes fixed on him as he worked. One spat into the dirt. Another muttered, "He's gone soft," keeping one of them on his land. Salira noticed too. Her glowing eyes followed the men from a distance. "They hate me," she said, quietly. "They see me as nothing but trouble." Daniel tightened his grip on the hoe. "Let them talk. You've earned your place here." But inside, he wasn't so certain. Rumors had power, and the colony was not kind to those who broke its silent rules. That evening, as the sun set, Daniel found something near his barn, a small bundle of straw tied with red string. Inside was a dead bird, throat cut clean. It was a warning. He clenched his jaw, storming inside the barn. Salira was there, feeding the animals. She turned at once, sensing his anger. "What happened?" He held up the bundle, his voice sharp. This is what happens when they think I'm protecting you. They don't just whisper anymore. They're threatening." Salira's hands trembled. She stepped closer, her voice urgent. "Then send me away, Daniel, before they harm you. Before they burn this farm, I can run, I can hide in the hills." Daniel slammed the bundle onto the table, shaking his head. "No, I won't let them decide for me. This is my land, my home, and no one tells me who I can keep here." Her eyes widened, shimmering with both fear and gratitude. "Why? Why risk everything for me?" Daniel's voice softened, though his expression stayed hard. "Because you've worked for everything you've eaten, because you've kept your promise, and because I've lived alone long enough." Salira swallowed hard. Her glowing eyes glistened. She lowered her head, whispering, "Then I will protect this place too. I swore loyalty to you. I will not break it." The days that followed grew tense. Daniel noticed fewer smiles in town. Neighbors no longer waved. Some refused to sell him goods, but Salira stayed true to her word. She worked harder than ever, waking before dawn, carrying loads until her arms shook. Even when blisters tore her skin, she never complained. One night, Daniel woke to the sound of footsteps outside the farmhouse. He grabbed his lantern and rifle, stepping into the darkness. The fields were quiet. But the scarecrow in the distance was different. Its head was replaced with a sack painted with glowing alien eyes. A cruel message meant to mock Salira. Daniel burned it down before she could see. But she noticed his silence the next morning. Her voice was firm. "They will not stop. You know this." Daniel nodded slowly. "I know. And that means we need to be ready. They want to break us. We'll show them we don't bend." Salira's lips curved into a faint smile, sharp and determined. "Then let them come. They will see I am not so weak as they think." For the first time, Daniel believed her. There was strength in her voice, something fierce and unyielding. He realized she wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. She was fighting for him, for the farm, for the fragile bond they had formed. But in the shadows of the colony, the whispers had already turned into plans to rid the settlement of the alien girl once and for all. The night air grew colder, and Daniel could feel the storm approaching, not the kind that brought rain, but the kind that brought men with fire in their hands. The night was colder than usual. The twin moons were hidden behind thick clouds, and the farm was wrapped in heavy silence. Daniel lay in bed, his rifle leaning against the wall beside him. Sleep would not come. He felt the tension in his bones, the kind that warned him trouble was near. Salira was in the barn, curled up in her straw corner. But even from the farmhouse, Daniel thought he could feel her unease. The neighbors had been too quiet the last few days, too watchful. He knew it was only a matter of time before whispers turned into something worse. Then it came. The faint crack of a branch, the shuffle of feet on dirt. Daniel's eyes snapped open. He grabbed his rifle, slid silently to the window, and saw dark figures moving through the fields. At least 6, carrying torches that glowed like angry eyes in the night. His heart pounded. He rushed outside, his boots crunching softly on the cold earth. "Salira," he hissed toward the barn. She appeared instantly, her glowing eyes wide with fear, but her posture straight. She could sense what he already knew. This was no accident. "They're coming," Daniel said, raising his rifle. "Stay behind me." But Salira shook her head fiercely. "No, this is my fight too." The raiders approached, their torches casting long shadows across the field. Daniel could see their faces now. Men from the colony, rough, angry, filled with hate. One of them shouted, "Hand her over, Daniel. That thing doesn't belong here." Daniel stepped forward, his rifle steady. "No one touches her. This is my land, and she's under my roof. You want her, you'll have to go through me." The men laughed cruelly. "You've gone mad, Daniel, protecting an alien thief. She'll bring ruin on us all." Before Daniel could answer, one man hurled his torch at the barn. Flames licked the dry wood. Salira's eyes widened. She moved with sudden speed, faster than human eyes could follow. She leapt to the torch, snatching it away before the fire could spread. Her hands glowed faintly, and she crushed the flame into nothing. The men staggered back, shocked. "What is she?" one whispered. Salira stood tall now, her thin frame trembling but unyielding. "I am not yours to take," she said, her voice sharp like a blade. "This farm is my home, and he is my bond. You will not cross this ground without paying in blood." Her glowing eyes burned in the dark, and for the first time, Daniel saw the fierce power she carried inside her. The raiders shouted and rushed forward. Daniel fired his rifle, the shot cracking through the night. One man dropped, clutching his leg. The others scattered, circling, trying to come from the sides. Salira darted into the fight. Her small body moved like lightning. She slammed into one raider, knocking him flat. Her hands struck with strange precision, pressure points that made men drop their weapons in pain. Daniel covered her with his rifle, firing at shadows, forcing them back. But there were too many. One torch crashed against the barn wall, this time catching the dry wood. Flames spread quickly, the crackle of fire filling the night air. "No," Salira cried. She rushed toward the flames, her hands glowing brighter. She pressed her palms against the fire, and for a moment, Daniel thought she would burn. But the flames flickered, weakened, and died as if swallowed by the night. The raiders froze, fear flashing in their eyes. "She's cursed," one shouted. "Not natural." Daniel fired another shot into the dirt near their feet. "Get off my land, you want to test me. You'll leave in pieces." For a moment, the men hesitated. Then, muttering curses, dragging their wounded, they retreated into the darkness. Their torches disappeared into the fields, leaving only silence and the faint glow of dying embers. Daniel lowered his rifle slowly, breathing hard. Salira stood nearby, her hands still trembling. Her eyes glowed faintly, filled with both fury and fear. He turned to her. "You saved the barn. You saved me." Salira shook her head. "No, we saved each other." She sank to her knees, exhaustion washing over her. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They will come again, Daniel. Stronger next time. They won't forgive what we did tonight." Daniel knelt beside her, placing a rough hand on her shoulder. "Then let them come. This is our land now. Yours as much as mine." Her glowing eyes met his, and for the first time, she allowed herself a small, fragile smile. It wasn't the smile of a thief or a beggar or a stranger. It was the smile of someone who finally belonged. Above them, the clouds parted, and the twin moons shone down. The farm was scarred but still standing. The night was not won without cost, but the bond between human and alien had only grown stronger, and in the shadows of the retreating raiders, whispers of vengeance already stirred. The farm smelled of smoke for days after the raid. Charred wood near the barn showed where the flames had tried to spread. Daniel worked tirelessly to repair the damage, hammering new planks into place. Salira stayed close, carrying tools, fetching water, never letting him work alone. But though the farm stood strong, something lingered in the air. Daniel felt it every time he saw her glowing eyes. Every time she moved with speed and strength no ordinary girl could have. He had questions. Questions she had avoided since the night they met. One evening, as the sun set in a fiery red sky, Daniel set his tools aside. He stood at the fence, arms crossed, watching Salira feed the animals. Finally, he spoke, his voice calm but firm. "It's time you told me the truth." Salira stiffened. Her hands froze on the bucket she carried. Slowly she turned, her silver-lined eyes meeting his. "What truth?" she asked, though her voice already carried fear. Daniel stepped closer. "The way you moved that night, the way you put out the fire with your hands, that wasn't normal. You're more than just a thief, more than a starving girl who stumbled onto my land." Her lips parted, but no words came. She lowered her gaze, clutching the bucket tightly. Daniel waited silent, giving her no escape. At last she whispered, "You are right. I am not what I pretended to be." She set the bucket down, her hands trembling. "I was not only cast out, Daniel. I was hunted. My people did not banish me for stealing. They banished me because I was born with a gift they feared." Daniel frowned, his rough voice steady. "A gift?" Salira lifted her hands, faint silver light pulsing beneath her skin. "Energy," she said softly. "It lives inside me. My people call it the fire of the ancients. Some say it is a curse, others say it is a weapon. But to the clans, it was dangerous. They feared I would bring ruin, so they betrayed me, sold me like cattle. I escaped only by chance." Her words hit Daniel like a hammer. He had suspected she was different, but not this. Not power running through her veins like fire. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice low. "Because you would have turned me away," Salira answered quickly. "You already risked much by letting me stay. If you knew the truth, you would see me as they did. Something to fear." Daniel studied her glowing hands, then her face thin and fragile but filled with raw honesty. He remembered the way she had fought beside him, the way she had saved the barn, the way she had kept her promise to work without complaint. "I don't fear you," he said finally, his voice rough but steady. "I fear the men outside more than I fear you." Salira's eyes widened, shimmering in the dim light. Her voice broke. You still trust me?" Daniel gave a short nod. "Trust is earned, and you've earned it. Every blister on your hands, every seed you planted, every time you stood with me. Those things matter more than whatever burns inside you." For a long moment, Salira could not speak. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. She sank to her knees in the dirt, her voice trembling. You do not know what you've given me, Daniel. No one has ever spoken those words to me. Not even my own family. Daniel crouched beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. Then maybe it's time you stop looking back at what they did. You're here now, and as long as you keep your word, this is your home. The silence that followed was heavy but warm. Celira bowed her head, whispering, I swore I would work your fields by day and warm you by night. I thought those were just desperate words, but now I see they are my truth, my bond to you. Daniel stood, helping her to her feet. Then keep it, not because you begged for survival, but because you choose it. From that night on, something changed between them. Celira no longer moved with only fear. She worked with pride, as if each task was proof of her belonging. When she sat by the lantern at night, her glowing eyes no longer looked lost. They looked alive, but danger had not vanished. In town, the whispers grew darker. Stories spread of the raid, of strange lights seen on Daniel's farm. Some called Celira a witch, others a weapon. And while Daniel and Celira forged trust within their fences, hatred gathered beyond them. One night, as the wind howled across the fields, Daniel stood by the barn door, Celira beside him. Her voice was steady now. The truth is out. They will come again. Not just with torches this time, but with soldiers. Maybe even with chains. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle, his voice calm. Then let them. This farm is ours, and no truth will change that. Celira's faint smile returned. Her glowing eyes burned with quiet fire. For the first time, she felt not like a runaway, not like a thief, but like someone who had finally found where she belonged. The days after the truth came out were heavy with silence. The colony no longer just whispered, it glared. Men at the market refused to sell Daniel seed. Women pulled their children close when Celira's glowing eyes appeared at the edge of town. The air was thick with judgment. Daniel ignored it. He worked his fields with the same steady rhythm, Celira beside him. She carried water, pulled weeds, and mended fences. Their bond had been forged in fire, and no rumor could undo it. But the tension in the air grew heavier with each sunrise. Then one morning, the sound of hoofbeats broke the calm. Soldiers rode up the dirt path to Daniel's farm, armored in dull metal, rifles at their sides. Behind them trailed villagers, their eyes sharp with hatred and curiosity. The captain dismounted, his face hard as stone. "Daniel Hale," he barked. "You are accused of harboring an alien fugitive. Step aside and surrender her, or face punishment." Celira stood near the barn, her hands trembling. For a moment Daniel thought she would run, but instead she lifted her chin, her glowing eyes defiant. "I will not hide," she whispered. "Not anymore." Daniel stepped forward, rifle in his hands, though not raised. "She is no fugitive. She works this land as I do. She's earned her place. You will not take her." Murmurs rose among the villagers. The captain sneered. "You'd defy your own people for this creature?" Daniel's voice was sharp, louder than the crowd. "She is more honest than most of you. She has fought beside me, bled beside me, while you sit and gossip. If that makes me a traitor in your eyes, so be it." The villagers stirred uneasily. Some looked away, ashamed. Others muttered curses. The captain raised his hand, soldiers stepping forward, but Celira moved before they could. Her hands glowed, silver light pouring out like living fire. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The soldiers froze, rifles trembling in their grips. Celira's voice rang out, strong and clear. "I am not your enemy. I was cast out by my own kind. I asked only for a place to survive. I have worked. I have kept my word. If you fear me, it is because you do not understand me. But I will not bow to fear again." Her words carried over the fields, fierce and unshakable. For a long moment silence fell. Only the wind moved, stirring the tall grain. Then an old farmer in the crowd stepped forward. His voice was rough, but his eyes softened. "I saw her that night. She fought to protect him. She saved his barn. She's no curse. She's a worker. Same as us." Another voice rose, this time a woman. "And she hasn't stolen since. She keeps her head down. She works harder than any of us would in her place." The crowd began to shift. Murmurs changing tone. The captain's jaw tightened. He saw the doubt spreading. He lowered his hand, his voice harsh. If she stays, her blood is on your head, Daniel, not ours. With that, he mounted his horse, signaling his soldiers. They rode away, the villagers, dispersing slowly, some glaring, some whispering, but none daring to cross the farm's fence. Daniel lowered his rifle, breathing deep. Salira's glowing eyes shimmered with unshed tears. She looked at him as if searching for words, but none came. Instead, she sank to her knees, overwhelmed. Daniel placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Stand, Salira. You've shown them who you are. You don't need to kneel to anyone again. She rose slowly, her body trembling but her spirit unbroken. Her voice was soft. I thought I would never belong, not to them, not even to myself. But here, with you, this is my place. Daniel gave a faint smile, rare but real. Then let's keep it together. From that day, the farm became more than land. It became a symbol. Neighbors who once avoided Daniel's path began to look with cautious respect. Some even offered help in secret, bringing seed or tools, wordlessly leaving them by the gate. Others still hated, but their voices grew weaker as seasons passed. Salira flourished. She grew stronger, her hands rough with honest work, her eyes no longer only glowing with fear but with pride. At night she sat by the fire with Daniel, sometimes silent, sometimes laughing softly at his dry jokes. The farm was no longer quiet and lonely. It was alive. The promise she once made in desperation, to work his fields by day, to warm him by night, was no longer just survival. It was a bond, a vow of loyalty and belonging. One dawn, as the sun painted the horizon gold, Daniel stood at the edge of the field, Salira beside him. Together they watched the grain swaying in the breeze, strong and endless. Daniel spoke quietly. A new season, a new start. Salira's voice was steady, filled with warmth. A new dawn. And as the light spread across the farm, human and alien stood side by side. No longer strangers, no longer outcasts, but partners bound by hardship, courage, and the simple truth that even in the coldest nights, loyalty and trust could grow into something unbreakable.